In our last video, we saw how to get 10 rows of information being displayed. But what we need to do is implement some pagination in order to view the rest of the data that's being returned. So what I'm going to do in my write to document function is put an if statement. And if the data.next or the data.previous values exist, then we're going to generate some pagination buttons, some next and previous buttons. So we're going to create a function called generate pagination buttons, and we're going to send in the values of data next and data previous. Okay. And I just need to create a pagination variable here as well. Okay, so we'll create a function now, and that's going to be called generate pagination buttons. It's going to take 2 arguments, next and previous. And what we want to do is generate next and previous buttons. So I'm going to say that if there is a value, a URL for both next and previous, then I'm going to return a template literal that creates a next and a previous button. Now we won't always have a next and a previous value. If we're at the beginning, then it doesn't supply a previous value. If we're at the end, it won't supply a next value. So we're going to create some buttons. We're going to give them the on-click event of write to document, and we want it to create the URL. So we'll put previous in here, and then we can close our button. Okay. So if the next and the previous values exist, then we want to return both next and previous buttons. So let's just create our next button here then. So this will get the value of the URL for next, and we'll have 2 buttons. Okay. Now we're going to put an else if. So in this instance, our data has just returned a next button. It has not returned a previous. So we're going to use not. So if next but not previous, then all we want to do is return the next button. So let's return that as a template literal in between our 2 back quotes. Otherwise, if we have no next button, but we only have a previous button, that must mean that we're right at the end of our data set, and so we just want to return the link to previous. Okay. So, and we'll put in previous. And I've just noticed that I have been putting in previous instead of prev. That needs to match the argument that we're passing through. So let's just change those. Prev and prev. Okay. And now I just need to add my new pagination variable to the end of my table. So it will be displayed. If I just go ahead now and refresh the screen, click on people, we can see I get my next button at the end there. I click on it, it's not working. Let's just inspect that and see why. This often happens with code. And as we can see, what's actually happening is that the URL we want is being appended onto the base URL. So we need to change that functionality in our write document function. So what I'm going to do is to change both the JavaScript and the HTML to account for this. The first thing we'll do is get rid of the base URL constant. And now we'll pass in full URLs each time. So now rather than a type, I'm going to call it URL. And I need to change that to in my write to document. It's URL instead of type. Similarly, when I run the getData function, I need to pass in URL instead of type. Okay, so now I need to update my HTML code. Instead of just passing in the type, I'm now going to send in the full URL to our API endpoint. So that's https://swappy.co/API/people. Let's do the same for each of these. Okay, save that. Refresh the page again. Let's have a look. Okay, and we still seem to have an issue here, so let's inspect again. And type is not defined at main.js line 4. Oh yeah, we can see that I'm still sending in the type here. We don't need that anymore. It literally is just a URL that we need, so I can get rid of that. Okay, so now I'll refresh my page. And there we go. My next button works. Just close that. Okay, so the next button works. We can go right to the end of our data set. The previous button works. And there we have it. Pagination working for all of the different types of data that we have. There's still a few loose ends that need to be tied up though before this project is complete, so we'll do that in our next video.